lot of how we learned to farm is from books, and these are our favorites. And so we thought we would give you a quick overview of each. The latest book that I read was The Self-Fed Farm by Eliot Coleman. And Eliot has written many of the books that we read early on. And this one was just released like a month or two ago. And it really resonated with our idea that we need to start growing more of our own inputs, like green manures and composting and cover cropping, instead of using different composts that we bring in from elsewhere. When we started the farm, we had to order like 60 yards of compost, and we found a good local source that we're happy with, but we're super lucky that we can get compost that we know where it came from. It doesn't have pesticides, it doesn't have any like weird heavy metals and other stuff that can be in compost sources. But we're still not in control of our compost ourselves. And so it feels like somewhere where we want to push in the coming years. But this read was really nice. I think it was a quick read. It took a few days. But he has such good storytelling and so much history to farming and like organic farming, like market gardening. That's really great to hear his perspective, especially somebody that has so many years of farming experience. I don't think you can really beat Eliot Coleman. So everything he's ever written, I definitely recommend reading. So yeah, Self-Fed Farm and Garden, definitely highly recommend. The next book is also by Eliot Coleman. This was like kind of the first book that we read when we decided we were going to farm, because we moved to Donnelly, Idaho, which is in the mountains, and it has like a 90-day growing season. And so we knew that we would have to concentrate on winter farming. So the Winter Harvest Handbook was incredible. I remember just reading it and being like, my mind was blown, but with every page, as I read that like it was actually possible to have year-round vegetables in like a protected space like this high tunnel without additional heat. Like I remember reading that, I had to like reread the chapter. I was like, there's no way you can do that. And here we are, mid-January in 5A or so with vegetables growing. So it worked. It was also so cool to read the history of the intensive winter farming that the like Parisian market gardeners would do in like the 1850s. And that how they've taken those historical techniques and just updated them over time, improved them, added little bit better technology. But like the main ideas are still the same, like using compost and instead of like a heated frame, like with glass, using a plastic covered greenhouse and this nice row cover. But yeah, this book was also a great read. I think Eliot Coleman's style, I just love reading everything he writes. So Winter Harvest Handbook, highly recommend. Even if you don't grow in the winter, I think this will kind of show you like maybe you could stretch your season a little bit more and grow earlier in the spring or later into the fall, and give you some good ideas. All right, the next book is Farming with Native Beneficial Insects from the Xerces Society. And this is really cool to show that ecological pest control is possible and you can build habitats for pollinators. And they talk about a lot of case studies and design for those systems. So you can attract both native and non-native beneficial insects to your farm. So you don't have to use pesticides and herbicides and other sprays. And it's just really exciting to think about building like the native pollinators, not like honeybees, and using those to like make your farm stronger and like have less reliance on those non-ecological sources of controls. So we're excited. We're planting some native flowers on this side of the farm, kind of all the way around where our beds are going to be. And Jess has already planted some native wildflowers on this end. She has a lot more seed ordered, and we're excited to make some like beetle banks and the little houses for the bees and the different pollinators, like drilling holes in logs and all that fun stuff. And we're just going to follow all the plans in this and try to make some great environments for them to hang out in. Cool. So this is the Living Soil Handbook from Jesse Frost, Farmer Jesse. If you've seen him on YouTube or podcast, the No-Till Growers YouTube channel. This was also one of the first books we read, and I feel like this is the book that gave me confidence in knowing that I could likely get through a season of farming. Like from start to finish, this had so much information on how to build your soil, how to build your beds, the infrastructure of the farm, how to plant the different vegetables, like planting everything, like keeping them alive. It was just really great information that was like easy to digest, more or less. I definitely skipped over some parts that got a little bit too complicated for me early on, and then went back and reread the book after, and it was just incredible to like learn so much more the second time around, like the interplanting and companion planting and different like more advanced topics. So this book I highly recommend. It was also such a fun read. I remember not being able to like put it down. Like I would just look for opportunities to go read the book, and then it would be like hours of reading, and then I just want to keep going. So this book is highly, highly, highly recommended if you're wanting to start market gardening. Okay, so this book has been absolutely incredible. It's the Greenhouse and Hoop House Growers Handbook, and it's mostly talking about how to grow tomatoes in a greenhouse or a hoop house. Mostly it's like greenhouse because they're talking a lot about like controlled temperatures and humidity and everything like that. And it's mostly tomatoes, but it does have sections on eggplants and cucumbers and peppers and even like greens. But I've learned so much in this book that I didn't understand from a technical perspective. And it's everything from like the interaction between like temperature and humidity and how that affects the plant and how you can steer the plant through its different growing cycles and how to get the best vegetative growth versus like fruiting generative growth. It's been so cool, and a lot of technical information, which I love to just geek out on a little bit. So I've been reading this and thoroughly enjoying every moment of it. And we're gonna try growing a couple rows of tomatoes in this house this summer. So we're kind of getting ready for that. And then maybe down the line, we'll go for like a full heated greenhouse and be able to do all the techniques that are explained in this, it's super interesting. It's like he learned from like the Dutch, and they're experts in greenhouse growing of vegetables. So super cool story. I know this guy worked for Johnny's and did his own farm and is just like a wealth of information on the subject. So it's been great. And then probably I would say if there was one book that was my favorite throughout all of this reading, it's been Daniel Mays's book, The No-Till Organic Vegetable Farm. And I think it's because I resonate with practically everything he says and talks about. I didn't know much about him when I got the book, and as I went through it, it's like, yep, that's how I want to do want to approach no-till, and here's how we would want to approach like sales on the farm and CSA and everything. It was just like, it was awesome to read this book. And the more I've learned about his processes and their farm, it's kind of like where we'd like to be in a few years, I think. So this book is also really great information. I loved his use of cover cropping and examples of like sneaking in cover crops and how to like plan that all out. And then companion cropping and intercropping is just incredible. I really love how he just like mows down the previous crop, and I think he'll tarp it and then he'll just plant straight into the residue and not really worry about leaving the root balls behind and getting those out of the way and making it like this perfect pristine bed. And he keeps all of the soil covered at all times, so your paths are always covered, your beds are always mulched, and so you have this like weed-free farm because the soil is always covered. There's no chance for the weeds to come through, or limited, and you just have to do a little bit of weeding. And we've really been trying to follow that because our farm, when we first got here, was just kind of weed infested and covered in weeds. And our beds are practically weed free, which is just blowing my mind that it's actually working. So yeah, it's been so cool to read this book, and the information was incredible. And then finally, the classic, the Eliot Coleman New Organic Grower. I actually read this after the Winter Harvest Handbook and the Four Season Farm. He referenced this so many times. I just had to get the classic and like the one true source of information. And I think that if you're doing organic farming, or even if you're not and you're just interested, he's obviously like probably like the best source of information that exists. He did it for so long. He's still gardening himself. This is the 30th anniversary edition, so it's been updated a bit. But yeah, I loved reading his work, and it's like he's kind of laid the base, the groundwork for all of these other farmers. So you'll see like Daniel Mays and Jesse Frost and those people also mention him in their books, and you can tell that he led the way for this whole movement. So super great read, highly recommended. And then I think Jess has a special book to end this video.
So the last book is the Cut Flower Source book, and it is by Rachel Siegfried. And I actually saw an interview with Rachel on YouTube, and I just like had to know more information. Her interview was so good because she talks about growing perennials as like a cut flower, and a lot of like woody perennials. And it's just really interesting how you can get nice foliage and flowers blooming throughout the entire season. And especially in a climate like ours, where the season for like pretty annual flowers is like so short. This book really like helped me understand how we could have like some sort of flower offering throughout a lot of the season. So we are going to be planting a lot of perennial bushes, a lot of native perennial flowers, along with a lot of other annuals this year. And yeah, this book is just really helpful in talking about how you can do that and everything that goes into making a perennial garden. So these are all of our favorite farming books. And yeah, I hope you find at least one of them is very useful and you maybe haven't heard of some of them. And yeah, they really helped us start our farm. So yeah, if you like this video and you want to see more, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.